The tensions between Ukraine and Russia are at a peak for the past few days, and none of the countries is planning to step back. While Russia is a superpower and is expressing its anger on NATO, Ukraine is merely a toy doll with no actual fault. Russia has always carried a tag of being an aggressive nation, and this time also, it will not kneel in front of Ukraine or any of the Western nations. In the recent past, many of the countries have gained influence from the Western world, Ukraine being the one. The tensions between the two nations have existed since 2014, which is now turning into a war in 2022. Putin has always been a leader with anger issues when someone tries to threaten his nation or his post. And this is just one of the threats that he is repelling with his military forces.
The deadly Russian onslaught in Ukraine appears to be intensifying this Wednesday, targeting the country's largest cities.
As Russian commanders intensified their bombardment of Ukrainian urban areas, Russian forces attacked a television tower in Kiev.
Satellite images appear to show a 60-kilometer convoy of military vehicles approaching from the north of the city.
The Russian Defense Ministry warned residents in Kiev to leave their homes, saying that Russia would also strike sites belonging to Ukraine's security service.
However, both the countries are correct from where they stand, but still, most of the nation-states are showing their sympathies with Ukraine and boycotting Russia. Now that this superpower has successfully gained hatred from the whole world, it is now feeling isolated and left out. So, what will happen to Russia's economy, and what are the economic conditions of Russia at present? How will President Putin manage to get them back in the market? Let's find out. Current economic condition of Russia. As the country is facing a black leash from many other nations, its financial system is falling apart due to the fall of Russia's central bank in stabilizing their country's economy. The value of Russia's currency ruble has fallen to 118 per dollar on March 4, 2022. The head of Russia's central bank wore funeral black clothes while giving a speech about Russia's economy. As quoted by brilliant minds, actions speak louder than words. The attire of Elvira Nabiullina has spoken more than the words about the country's current position. The country has to raise the percentages of interest from 9 to 20% to keep up the sustainable economic conditions of the country. However, the country now has started to face economic and political pressure, and even the citizens of the country are not happy with Putin's harsh invasion of Ukraine. But the chances of Russia pulling back their forces are very less. What has caused Russia's economy to fall? Here are some of the reasons. Number 1. SWIFT banking system. The United States and many other Western countries have interestingly chosen to banish many Russian banks from SWIFT. SWIFT is a global banking system used to securely transfer funds and money across borders. It is the most commonly used banking system around the world. By cutting Russian banks from the SWIFT, the sanctions hinder the money flow into and out of Russia. This will ensure that these banks are disconnected from the international financial system and harm their ability to operate globally, said Ursula von der Leyen, European Commission President. Cutting Russia from this could result in further inflation and weakening of the Russian currency ruble. It will not only put a fence in financing Russia's military operation, but will also affect the business works, household activities, and many more day-to-day functions. This pressure on the markets and economy will put political pressure on the president to reverse his operations. However, putting Russian banks off the SWIFT system will not only have a negative impact on Russia, but also on several other nations. Number 2. Russia's central bank. This is quite a bold step by the West to put sanctions on the Russian central bank. It has somewhere around $630 billion in foreign currency reserves, where most of the currency is held in dollars, euros, and other assets, which Russia can no longer withdraw. Being controlled by the Western countries, the reserves, also known as Putin's war chest, can no longer be used. It not only put a hold on military operations held by the president, but also limits the bank's ability to stabilize the Russian economy. With the low value of the ruble, the bank now has increased the interest rates from 9.5% to 20% and has asked the firms to sell their foreign currency as an economic emergency move. BCS Global Markets said in a note, unfavorable external environment made Russia's monetary policy unsustainable, and we do not rule out a possible rate hike going forward or further unexpected and non-market decisions. The impact of both these sanctions has led to the free fall of the Russian currency, and the rates of many everyday commodities have already hiked up. With people running from ATM to ATM, the whole nation is in a trouble and expecting huge economic crises. People are losing their faith in the system and trying to run off, but again, there is not enough money. Number 3. Stock market crash. The MOX Russia Index is a major stock market index, tracking 50 largest and most liquid Russian companies from 10 main economic sectors, which are listed on the Moscow Stock Exchange. While many of the Western nations have banished Russian banks, the currency of Russia has fallen really low in the past few days, and the Central Bank of Russia is facing heavy losses. To keep the financial status of Russia on the table, the central bank has put a suspension on the Moscow exchange as they want to prevent Russian assets from sharp losses. Many of the companies have already faced a loss in the global stock market amid the harsh Western sanctions imposed against Moscow for the invasion of Ukraine. The suspension of the stock market by Russia is more like a measure to keep the value of the ruble high than is expected and save the economy of the country to fall. Number 4. Russian planes shut by the European countries. President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has also announced a ban on Russian planes, which also includes private jets of oligarchs. This restriction will require Russian flights to take other routes, which will eventually increase the flight time. Many of the countries are putting this ban to cut off their relations with Russia, while others are banning the flights due to an increased number of people taking refuge in their countries and avoiding the war. This step by the EU Commission will lead to an increase in time and cost of the flights, as the aircraft will use extra fuel during the time when the oil prices have also increased. After being cut from Europe, Russia is also planning to shut down the British aircraft to take off or land on their territory. But this might have a negative effect on Russia's finances, as it makes huge foreign exchange for overflight rights and the use of airspace and navigation. Number 5. Multinational corporation banishment. Most of the countries have their sympathies with Ukraine and now are wishing to punish Russia for this brutal invasion. Now that the status of Russia has fallen, many MNCs are also planning to flee from the country and put a hold on their upcoming projects with the country. While many of the countries have already decided to isolate Russia from the whole world, now many corporations are also stepping up and joining hands to banish Russia from world trade. Many of the giant companies have left the business with Russia, and many small are expected to leave the country soon. With the closing of many MNCs, Russia is soon expected to be cut off from the world trading system, and eventually its financial status will fall from being the world's 11th largest economy. Future of the Russian economy. Seeing the current situation of Russia in the economic market, we can surely say that the upcoming years will be very hard for the country to take a stand back in the market with high GDP. The consequences of this war will be harder than the COVID-19 on Russia's economy. As expected by economists, the economy of Russia will shrink because of the Western sanctions and isolations. Till now, Russia has already seen a fall in the GDP from 2% growth to 7% loss. This fall is expected to continue and maybe get tougher in the upcoming years if the country continues to carry its aggression. But this period will not only have an impact on Russia's economy. Many other countries will also see some reverse actions, as Russia is among the main exporters of oils and natural gases. And with many countries boycotting Russian trade, the prices are expected to rise for many of the nations. If you've enjoyed this video, please click the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos like this.